Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see such a full house this evening. Really exciting to get back to our lecture series. Each year when we plan these, it's a negotiation between the speakers and our schedule availability here in the Magic Wegmans Theater. So sometimes we end up having the speakers kind of, dead center of each month, one after another, and sometimes they're spread out a little bit more. So this time we are almost 2 months since our last speaker, so I've missed this. It's good to have everybody back. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Josh Owen. I'm the Vignelli Distinguished Professor of Design and Director of the Vignelli Center for Design Studies. We are thrilled to welcome you to the second event of our Spring 25 Vignelli Design Conversation series, presented by Design Milk and RIT's Magic Center, and made possible in part by the generosity of alumnus Chris Bailey and Bailey Brand Consulting. I'd like to begin by offering my thanks to RIT's Magic Center and their team of faculty, staff, and students, as well as our interpreters for this evening, Laura Liebhart and Sydney Roy, for their work. I would also like to recognize the contribution of graphic design student Hannah Neki-Kaden for her beautiful branding for tonight's lecture, as well as the year's series overall. Rochester Institute of Technology's Vignelli Center for Design Studies is an international hub for education, research, collaboration, and advocacy, which expands the scope of the programs in the College of Art and Design's School of Design. The facility houses the archive of renowned designers Lella and Massimo Vignelli, whose works are icons of international design. And as you may know, currently we're having some work done in the center to protect the archives better for posterity, so we are currently closed but open again, we hope very soon. The Center and Archives sit within RIT's College of Art and Design, which was built on the traditional territory of the Onondaga, or people of the Great Hill. In English, they are known as the Seneca people, keepers of the Western Door. They are one of the 6 sovereign nations that make up the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. We honor the land on which RIT was built and recognize the unique relationship that the indigenous stewards have with this land. That relationship is the core of their traditions, cultures, and histories. We recognize the history of genocide, colonization, and assimilation of indigenous people that took place on this land. Mindful of these histories, we work towards understanding, acknowledging, and reconciling. As stewards of history and content, we must acknowledge and seek to learn from our context, bad and good, ugly and beautiful. This applies to the Vignelli Center as with any archive. The Vignellis taught us that design is a systematic and scalable framework for solving problems large and small. Their philosophy, design is one, leaves us with the universal message that design is a lens through which we can envision a more inclusive and sustainable tomorrow. Tonight, I'm proud to reiterate that this spring we have begun a new chapter in the Vignelli Center by integrating the recently formed Vignelli Center Student Club into our lecture program. The club's website states, quote, "Our purpose is to support the mission of the Vignelli Center by providing a mechanism for student involvement. We also provide a space for all students involved in any area of study to express and show their love for design," end quote. By their own definition, the group provides a platform for students of all areas of study to explore their curiosity for the kind of design practices the Vignellis demonstrated. This marks an important acknowledgement that our students wish to expand their connections to the Vignelli Center to further harness it as a laboratory for their own success. Following our new tradition, a representative from the Vignelli Center Club will introduce our speaker, and after the talk, the group will provide the first questions to prompt the conversation from the audience. Also, tomorrow morning, the club will host a special closed session with our speaker to continue tonight's design conversation. So it's with great joy that I pass the torch to Ethan, who is the PR chair of the Vignelli Center Student Club, who will introduce our speaker for tonight.
Thank you, Ethan. Hello, my name is Ethan Silva, and I'm a third year here at RIT for Industrial Design, and I'm also PR chair of the student club, the Vignelli Student Club. I'm excited to introduce Hector Silva. Hector Silva has over 9 years of teaching experience at acclaimed industrial design programs, including the University of Illinois at Chicago, University of Notre Dame, Rochester Institute of Technology, the Academy of Art University, the School of Art of the Art Institute of Chicago. His dedication to design education was recognized when he was named the Young Educator of the Year by the Industrial Designer Society of America. He also works as the industrial design consultant running his own design studio, H-Design. His passion for promoting design education led him to establish AdvancedDesign, a nonprofit organization. This initiative earned him a Special Achievement Award from the IDSA. More recently, he launched Offsite, an innovative online design school. Offsite is an experimental venture to bridge the gap between academia and industry, aiming to revamp the traditional methods of design education. Hector Silva, everybody.
Right. It's always weird to hear your intro or your bio because I wrote it and it's just weird. Okay. I'd like to thank Josh Owen and the Vignelli Center for inviting me to be part of this incredible speaker series. Actually, it's a very small world. The first speaker was Felicia Ferrone. She was my graduate professor. She was very intimidating, but also very awesome. Like, I changed my graduate thesis the semester I was graduating. That's how intense Felicia was. But it's really pretty amazing to follow in her footsteps in this speaker series. It's an honor to be here with you and to have the chance to share a bit about myself and my journey. To be fueled by potential means being driven by the beliefs in what's possible. It's a forward-looking mindset rooted in growth, ambition, and the idea that untapped talent, ideas, or opportunities can lead to something greater. And it's about taking action and inspired by what can be or what could be tomorrow. And that's the title of my lecture today. I've actually, since I saw Josh, I think in the fall, I'm not sure when I saw you in Chicago, you had talked about inviting me here, and since that interaction I've been thinking about what am I going to talk about today. It's been about 2 or 3 months and it's been constantly in my head, what do I want to talk about today? Just a quick reminder or a quick disclaimer, everything I'm sharing today reflects my personal opinions and experiences. I'll be opening up about some personal things I actually haven't shared publicly before. So I'll be moving quickly through five chapters that each share a bit about who I am. I mentioned to Josh earlier today that this might be the first lecture where I feel truly in touch with myself and my experiences, and I'm going to be pretty open and vulnerable, so I appreciate your patience and understanding as I share. So, we're going to start with the first chapter. I'm going to introduce myself, even though Ethan kind of gave a little bit of information about who I am, but I'm Hector Silva. I was born and raised in Chicago. I am one of 6. My family is quite big. I'm first generation. I'm the middle child. I have 4 other brothers. I'm the 5th one, and I have a sister. Today I'm sharing a version of myself that many of you might not know, a version shaped by insecurity and confusion and at times arrogance. And I'll tie everything together. But I think as an educator, it's important for us to be vulnerable. We have the greatest responsibility in giving you the best education we can give you. And sometimes I feel like my students put me on a pedestal, like I know more than they do. I'm just as human as you are. I've also failed. I was also a student once. And so that's what I'm here to talk about. What I'm sharing with you today is a reflection of my journey, shaped by my experiences as a student, designer, leader, director, consultant, and most importantly, a human being. It wasn't always this way. There was always a time, like I mentioned, that I was a very confused design student, and it showed in my work. Before I jump into that, I'm going to show you a little bit of what I've done in the most recent, probably 5 years or so. I began my career in the toy industry, designing for brands like Nickelodeon, Learning Curve, Tomy, Thomas & Friends. And if you think my work was polished, kind of what you see right now, think again. I had to convince, almost beg, a couple of managers, a couple of agencies to take a chance on me, to hire me based purely on potential. But as everyone here knows, potential alone isn't enough. You have to prove that you have the skills and knowledge to actually do the work. Later in my career, I pivoted into housewares, packaging, and most recently I've been working in the food space. Each time I stepped into something new, I reminded myself that I can do this, like I have the potential to do this. That belief really pushed me forward, and whenever doubt crept in, I worked through it, letting the process quiet the uncertainty. Like everyone in this room, I have doubts that will never go away. And as students who are graduating into the market filled with uncertainty, a political climate that is affecting hiring, innovation, you need to remind yourself that this shall pass. And if you do have insecurities, and if you have fears, just get to work, because work will always beat those insecurities. When I graduated during the global recession of 2009, the economy collapsed following the banking crisis. Imagine stepping into that real world at that moment. At the time, I thought I had all figured it out because I had one internship just outside of Chicago. And I sent this email to a hiring manager. And you can see, I taught the professional practice class at RIT this past fall. And this is everything. I would totally be just roasting my own kind of work here, how I communicate with professionals now. But when I was a student, I didn't know. I didn't take a professional practice class. No one told me, hey, this is the right way to talk to people. This is the right way to reach out to someone who could potentially be hiring you. So I just Googled stuff, and I just did what I could with the information that I had, and I sent out this email. And then a month later, I sent out another email. Hey, did you get my last email? And another month, and then I used LinkedIn, and I was like essentially stalking this person. Yeah, it was not that great. One big mistake that I made was just being overly persistent about opportunities. Keep in mind, I had just graduated. I carried the doubt of a pessimist and the confidence of an optimist. But that doubt sometimes led me to make poor decisions and even burn some bridges. One major mistake that I made was emailing 2 hiring managers at the same time. You can see that email over there. That's a big no-no in our industry. It's something that you just don't do because they both see it and they both see that you're sending it to 2 people. And the worst part is not only sending them that email, but attaching really terrible work with that email. And that work looked like that. Yeah. The worst part is I was actually attaching this work to those emails, and somehow I expect to get hired. I was just like, come on, please hire me. Like, I'm pretty good. I'm going to show you some more stuff, and it's going to hurt me, but it's very important take a good look at this. I'll hopefully let it motivate you. Everyone in this room is already far beyond whatever this was. I'm being, like I said, incredibly vulnerable right now because I want to show you that everyone has a journey, whether it's good, bad, amazing, or difficult. I truly believe educators should be a little more open and honest with students to remind you that we were once in your shoes and they were human just like you. And I was very motivated to get into toy industry, and you can see my work just did not meet the standards of the toy design industry. This was Hector Silva, senior year, spring semester, ready to graduate. But that didn't deter me. It just gave me more motivation. And something that really helped me was whenever I got bad results, whenever I got no results, I just kept working. I kept working through that. You're feeling unhappy, not proud of your work, no one is responding to your job applications, think your design isn't good enough, just keep working. You fear less when you prepare more. Work ethic beats fear means that consistent effort and dedication can overcome self-doubt, anxiety, or the fear of failure. And when you stay focused, show up, and you put in the work, even when you're unsure or afraid, you will build enough confidence to get you through and take action. Now, after I graduated, like I mentioned, I somehow convinced someone to hire me, just on pure potential. You can't just do that now. Like, you can't say, hey, can you please hire me? Like, I promise you I can do better. But somehow someone saw something in me, and I was able to really close that gap that I was missing. I left school very much unprepared. I got a really cool tour of RIT today and all your amazing facilities. I wish I came here when I was a student. But I worked really hard to really polish my skills, and what you saw a while ago was my work, like I said, from spring semester, 4th year, and about 4 months later, my work looked like this. So, I'm showing you all the rough stuff, but I just see it as a very small chapter in my journey as a young designer. I knew that if I truly wanted to work in design, that nothing was going to stop me. The only thing or person that was going to stop me was going to be myself. And after I graduated, I just was hustling. I was just working. I had a Cintiq in my room, and I just remember just sketching and editing my portfolio over and over again. I just put in the hours. I studied other designer styles, watched countless tutorials, focused on just leveling up. And that's how I started turning that potential into something real. And so what you see here is work from when I first started actually working in toys. You can see how I just had everything wrong, even just the styling, the character design of things, and how you presented. Over time, my work and the results began to quiet that self-doubt. Your limitations, it's only your imagination. I truly believe that. At the time, those sketches that you're seeing up there, I was working at a toy invention firm whose biggest claim to fame was designing Tickle Me Elmo in the 90s, along with a bunch of other like really cool puzzles and toys. And one day, I was deep in work, my desk, and the lead engineer stopped by my desk and asked if we can have a private meeting. And I was like, sure. Right? I was 23, I don't know how old students graduate now, 23, 24, something like that. I spent an extra year in school, so I was about 23. And so recently graduated, first job, super excited. And I was like, cool, all right, what's this meeting about? And the engineer was like, we're inviting you to join a special project. And as a naive 23-year-old, I eagerly agreed, and I just remember signing a stack of paperwork and NDAs without really asking questions or thinking twice. I just remember signing a bunch of work and being handed this really big, heavy object. Like, I had no idea what it was. Next thing I know, they gave me this really beat up kind of dissected object, and they told me, here it is, grab some calipers and CAD every single part of this. No context, just start CADing, no questions asked, just do it. And so I had to take it apart with a screwdriver and had to take every part and took my calipers and started measuring. And for about 2 weeks, and about 60 different parts, all in different sizes, I just got to work. I would come in and just would CAD. Like, I spent 2 weeks carefully CADing this object, taking it apart, measuring every component, and rebuilding it as accurately as possible. And you guys guess what this is? Once I finished, the lead engineer began fabricating it using my files. They machined it on site, each part, and I watched as this strange puzzle slowly came together piece by piece, assembling it like a complex Lego set. There are too many pieces, I wish I can show you more, to show in detail, but does anyone want to guess what it is? And after a few hours of all those parts came finally together, I realized that I helped build a weapon. A weapon designed for crowd control. Here's a photo of the weapon casually placed in front of a Nintendo Wii in a Rock Band setup. The contrast is kind of wild because this is a toy invention firm, so pretty surreal. The name of the weapon is called Lund Variable Velocity Weapon System, a device intended to be used during protests. It fired rubber bullets filled with colored dye, marking individuals so they can later be identified and arrested by the police. This weapon was part of the Department of Defense. I guess the toy invention firm won some kind of contract and designed a weapon that was going to be presented in Las Vegas for some type of convention, and they even had us design the backboard and all this stuff, how it was going to be presented and how the marketing materials. And at this point, I was really numb. Forget this fueled by potential mantra I was just telling you about. I had done a solid CAD job. I was very excited about the CAD job, but I had no idea what I was doing. I played a role in creating a weapon, and that realization haunted me for months. It was the first time I truly grappled with the ethics of design. No one asked if I thought it was right or wrong, or even what my perspective was. No conversations about the designer's responsibility, just silence. I know that there are roles where designers are tasked with creating things that can harm us, but I knew I didn't want any part of that. After a conversation with a mentor of mine, I came to a clear conclusion that I needed to leave and stay true to my values and my morals and my beliefs. And that's what led me to start thinking about purpose. This made me reflect on the kind of designer I wanted to become, the type of work I wanted to create, what my identity was, and how I could use industrial design to influence others towards better, more thoughtful solutions that were not only impactful and fun, but also safe and inclusive. And this led me to Ikigai, which is a very common thing that I teach in my professional practice class. It's a Japanese concept that roughly translates to a reason for being. It's the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. In essence, it's about finding purpose, fulfillment, and meaning in life. Something that gets you up in the morning and gives you your day's directions. So what you love is your passion. What you're good at is your vocation. What the world needs is your mission. And what you can get paid for is your profession. Where all four overlap, that's your Ikigai. And this essentially led me to thinking about my purpose. And this is for the first time, this is when I first started thinking about education and helping other students. Helping others meant helping you, the student. I went back to grad school or my master's degree to become an educator. When I first started teaching, I told myself I'd split my time 50-50 between education and design. And for the educators that are in this room, you all know that's an absolute lie. It's just complicated. But the truth is, helping others can be all-consuming, and balancing both is easier said than done. Education became the ideal way for me to really share my experience and guide future designers. I truly believe that to be a great educator, you must be inspired by the impact you can make as a designer. And I became very passionate about helping others, shaping the next generation of designers, that I devoted most of my time to design education, taking only a few design projects each year. And those percentages that you see up there, they tend to fluctuate every year. Sometimes I do have a lot of work and I have to hire, and sometimes I don't, but nonetheless, I try to keep it 50-50, right? Other times it's more 30-70. It's always changing, and right now we're entering April and it's probably gonna change to like 90-10, we're end of the semester, and I'm helping all the students as much as possible, but it does keep me on my toes. In 2020, when COVID hit, I had just finished working at the University of Notre Dame. I just had a 3-year contract there, and I had just finished working in their industrial design program. And I didn't have a job for the first time since I was like 12. For some reason, I started working at 12. Not in design, but just working, like was always trying to do things for money, like cut grass and etc. But I was just like, this is weird. I don't have a job. And there's this like pandemic that's happening. And came August, probably like a week before school started, for the semester started, this school reached out to me and said, hey, we want to hire you. And I was like, all right, cool, I'm down. And then 2021 came, and this school was like, hey, we want to hire you. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Okay. And that same year, another school reached out and said, hey, we want to hire you. 3 universities asked me to teach in their programs, and guess what? I said yes to all of them. You'll find that once-in-a-lifetime opportunities don't come around very often. And as someone committed to becoming the best designer and educator that I can be, I knew that being exposed to a variety of educators and curricula would really push me to grow in ways that I couldn't pass up. So, for the last 5 years, I've been helping 3 different programs, 3 different sets of students, 3 different markets, 3 different time zones. And working with these 3 institutions has been very, very wild ride. I wish I can show you what my calendar looks like, especially when time zones are included. It's not truly, I mean, it's not excited until it scares you, and believe me, there were some very intimidating moments. But more than anything, it's been incredibly fulfilling and energizing. I've taught both undergrad and graduate courses, everything from capstone to visualization to research, sketching, studios, and professional practice. Along the way, I've had the chance to help so many students elevate their work and position themselves to bring real value to whoever hires them. I got to meet with some of the most awesome students at all 3 institutions. Here's just some examples of student work from all 3 universities. And you know how parents are always asked if they have a favorite child, and they're like, of course we don't, right? I'm one of 6 siblings, and I can tell you that that's definitely a lie. So any guesses who my favorite students are? It really is. It's RIT for sure. It's been pretty awesome to just be a part of their journey and show them a little bit of how they can become the best designers they can be. And so this is just some work that I'm showing you. Again, varies from all those classes that I just mentioned. to some really cool capstone projects. But I'm not going to bore you with this video, it's kind of long, but yeah. So, always say yes to everything, you'll figure out the details later. I was so driven to make a difference that I often found myself in trouble at school. The administration, I remember during a review, the admin wrote on their notes that boldness, determination, and utter disregard for the rules. That's what they wrote about me, because I used to do a bunch of initiatives with students. I used to really promote them. I would, if they had an idea, I was like, I'm on board. It really sparked something in students. It excited them for the future. There was a renewed passion for design and the confidence that they had the tools and support to succeed. My response was, aren't rules meant to be broken, right? For 10 years after graduating, I was involved in the IDSA Chicago professional chapter. And I had a pretty big vision for how design education could evolve and how IDSA can play a role in it, but apparently they did not share that same vision. They weren't interested. I guess maybe it was too much for them. So fueled by potential and undiagnosed ADHD, I simply said, watch me. And in 2015, I founded AdvancedDesign, a design nonprofit that was the focus of it and the purpose of it was to provide accessible programming to anyone. So I don't think a lot of people know how AdvancedDesign was started, but I usually tend to tell my closest friends, and now you are all my closest friends too, that AdvancedDesign was started out of frustration because someone else told me that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. AdvancedDesign is a nonprofit at the forefront of industrial design. It's dedicated to sharing knowledge freely with anyone who wants it. No fluff, no gatekeeping, just real, authentic insights. Our initiatives cover a wide array of subjects like culture, mental health, industrial design, literature, history, all accessible for free. We collaborate with a variety of designers, agencies, brands, schools, educators. We're based in Chicago, but we have a presence in New York City and San Francisco. We're a diverse team of professionals and students that operate quite smoothly because our whole board is 100% BIPOC. It really reflects who our users are. We have done everything from in-person events. We have all kinds of mediums, very similar to some of the stuff you guys are doing here. We have a podcast, we have hundreds of books where we promote literature, we have educational materials, we do conferences. Since 2015, we have collaborated with over 250 plus studios and designers. This includes companies such as Google, Fuse Project, Frog, Logitech, all really cool agencies. And like I said, our purpose is to really provide an inclusive, forward-thinking model, but also to bridge the gap between design education and industry by sharing real-world knowledge, tools, and experiences. And so, since 2015, we've collaborated with some pretty amazing folks and agencies and have raised over $75,000 in scholarships to give out to students. And in 2020, because I wasn't tired enough, I started another business. And that business was a result of the gap that exists in our industry. Not this gap, a different gap. This gap is, as you know, there's a gap in design education, and again, since COVID, the gap has only widened. Employers are raising their expectation for entry-level skills, knowledge, and experience. With emergent technologies like AI, our field is growing even more competitive, and some design schools are struggling to keep pace. The reality is that sometimes, some schools won't teach you everything in 4 years, and sometimes that's not simply possible. And so bridging these gaps could involve teaching essential soft skills, fostering growth mindset that embraces constructive criticism, encouraging resilience to handle rejection gracefully. And so in 2020, we launched Offsite. Offsite is essentially a online experimental design school that supports students supplement their education to help them get employment. Yes, Offsite supports students, but as a founder and executive director, my role goes far beyond just creating programming. I'm involved in everything from strategy, student enrollment, onboarding, video editing, marketing, answering questions, helping students find jobs, planning, commencement, managing design and branding, handling taxes, building partnerships, the whole business side of things. And to be honest, I don't think I fully understood what it meant to run a business, let alone an educational program. It's a whole operation. Our students come from all around the world, each bringing their own unique circumstances and challenges when applying to our programs. That means that a big part of my job is finding solutions and doing my best to meet their needs. But I have a pretty cool team. I get to work with designers that were my role models when I was a student. And they're all of our instructors are active industrial designers who are leading in their field. And our job in this program is to stay at the forefront of what companies and agencies are looking for. We're constantly asking industry leaders what they need in a new hire, making sure that we are directly integrating that in our curriculum. It's about preparing students for the future, and it's about giving them the right mindset, supported by the right tools. And we've had a handful of R&T students go through our Offsite program and go on into industry. It's kind of a full circle moment because they didn't join our program because they lacked something, but they just had a drive to continue pushing themselves forward and elevating their skills as much as possible. And so that leads me to what's ahead. As I continue to push boundaries, there's just so many really cool stuff we're doing. On a personal level, I'm gonna have my personal work featured at the Mexico City's Design Week sometime this fall, so that's very exciting. I get to collaborate with some of my design heroes. I get to travel to other countries and build offsite, if that makes any sense. And about a month ago, I had the incredible opportunity to travel to Tokyo and begin developing programming alongside local designers. That's a local designer if you don't know who he is. He's pretty cool. His name is Naoto Fukasawa. He's he would be like a design luminaire. But I feel like I have the greatest job in the world. I get to I work so hard at a 9 to 5 that I don't get to do that anymore, and I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do that ever again. But I get to travel, and I get to learn about other education platforms and methods and strategies, and I just get to consume, and then I get to take that information and do whatever I can for students who need it. Other things I get to do is I get to meet with students, and I get to help them, and I get to hear their stories. I can't share much about what the future holds as far as what we're working on, but I am really excited for just collaborations, helping people, being here today, just being in the moment. I feel like we're truly privileged to do what we do as designers. My parents don't know what I do. My mom tells my family I'm an art teacher. And that's pretty cool. No offense to art teachers, but I've come to love that answer. I'm like, yeah, okay. But yeah, I get to do some really cool stuff and use my connections, use my network, use my platform to help others. And if I need to, or if I, in retrospect, reflecting back on that, designing a weapon, I feel like 23-year-old Hector would be pretty excited what I'm doing now, like being far away from that and just helping as many people as possible. Learning from different cultures really has allowed me to just enrich and expand what I can do with design education. 2 key initiatives that I like to really do and complete this year with the industrial design community. The first one is a declaration or some kind of mantra for design educators to live by, work by, and uphold. This would outline clear standards for teaching, expectations for both educators and institutions, and a call for unity in how we approach design education. Right now, there's a lot of design programs across the country that are fragmented. As someone who travels to a lot of design schools, and I get to talk to a lot of educators and students, there is a lack of consistency in what's being taught and how it's being delivered. There's really no guiding light. I hope that this declaration can serve as a foundation to bring clarity, alignment, and better outcomes for both students and educators alike. This declaration is really, really intimidating because I don't have all the answers. It requires me to talk to as many people as possible. The second initiative that I really want to finish this year is another declaration. And this one focuses on ethics and professionalism. This would emphasize the importance of mutual respect within our community to ensure that design agencies from top to bottom uphold strong moral values. It would address issues like fair treatment, ethical behavior, pay transparency, and equitable hiring practices, making sure that everyone from interns to creative directors is treated with dignity and respect. Again, these are things that are easier said than done, but these are 2 really big things that I would love to do, and hopefully working with the right people, I'm able to give others equity so they can put their insights and share their opinions on it. But I talked about fueled by potential, and I want to make sure that I don't mislead you, because potential means nothing if you don't have the discipline to see it through. If your habits don't change, you won't have a new year. You will just have another year, right? So keep that in mind. Not everyone will like you, but not everyone matters. And nothing worth having comes easy. And that's something that I truly live by as someone who's constantly just working to be better. And I'm going to wrap things up and leave you with this last slide here, because I think about this all the time. We're all connected one way or another, whether you believe it or not. And for those who I meet here for the first time, just because we're not connected, we're connected now, and maybe in the future we'll see each other. But as an underdog, I juggle 5 jobs and stay busier than I could have ever imagined. But like I said, I do have the greatest job in the world. I'm surrounded by the most incredible people. I've gone from thinking, one day I hope to be like that person in that white shirt, to I can't believe I get to work with this person. And I highly encourage you to think that way. You guys all have design heroes, you all have mentors, you might even just see someone on social media and be like, wow, that person has a cool life or whatever. Stop dreaming and figure out a way to work with them, because that can just really change your trajectory. Never forget where you started. The future you're building on only exists because of the foundation you worked so hard to lay. You get rewarded in public for what you practice in private. And for that, I like to thank Josh Owen, Alex Lobos, and every faculty and student in the RIT community. Your influence continues to push me to grow as an educator, as a designer, and as a person. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here and share my story.
Thank you so much, Hector. We have time for questions, of course, so we'll pass the torch to the Vignelli Center Student Club to start.
Do you have any advice for anybody kind of starting a business? Like, what would you say is like the most important thought for you kind of going ahead and starting your own studio?
The question was, what are my thoughts on starting my own business, right? Or so you starting your business for the first time?
Yeah. Just like any advice, or like what was like kind of like the main thing that you had to kind of take a long time to figure out that this is kind of the way to do things?
Yeah. Guess my advice would be get a good accountant. That's good. Because when you have a good business and it's thriving, you'll have money coming in. Sometimes more money than you've ever seen before, and you'll be like, whoa. So you need a good accountant. Make sure you just make sure you're extremely focused on your expenses, stuff like that. Like, I know it sounds really silly and kind of sounds like not a very exciting answer, but it is really easy to, if you don't keep track of that stuff, your dream of a business can easily be gone away if you don't just do your due diligence, because the IRS doesn't mess around. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, focus on the business side of things, and if you can't, find someone who can help you with that. I wish someone told me that sooner.
Thank you.
You talked about being overly persistent when you were showing the emails that you would send when you were still in college. And I wanted to know where you kind of draw the line between being overly persistent and being persistent enough and taking the risks needed to succeed in, you know, this design community in this field.
Yeah, I think you can be persistent. I think there's a healthy way of doing it, but you need to ask for help as well. I think if you're doing this by yourself and you're chasing one job and you just don't get a response, that's a clear indication that you should probably stop and pivot somewhere else. But if you really want to work, let's say you really want to work at Apple, and you're just like, I'm not getting a response, I've emailed them 100 times, try to find someone who can help you. Maybe they work at Apple, maybe they'll give you some perspective, maybe they'll be like, hey, you know, this is happening there, maybe they're not getting a response. But what I've experienced is the best way to start talking to people is to try to have someone else help you connect those dots. So whenever, and this is what I teach in the professional practice class, is students are very interested in applying at a job. Sure, you can start by cold emailing them or applying through a portal. But most likely the people who are at the other end of that are not designers. They might be in HR, or you might be in a pool of 1,000 applicants. Your best bet is to try to find someone who you might be connected that might work there, right? So whenever I help students, if a student's interested in an agency, I then talk to someone in that agency, someone I might know, to give me some perspective, maybe put some feelers out there. Are you guys hiring? Are you looking? If you are, would you look at my students' work? Things like that. And so start there, start talking to other people. Because people are hiring people that they know or through recommendations. It's very rare to hire someone through just a huge portal. You'd have to beat out tons of applicants, right? So I think you can absolutely be persistent. There's ways of doing it, but I think if you just continue to, you know, beat that dead horse multiple times, nothing's gonna happen, and they're probably getting your stuff. They're just like, yeah, he's just too much, you know? But find ways, find other people that can help you, and it starts here. You have instructors, you have educators here that can help you with that, right? But yeah, I feel like strategy is gonna be your best friend there.
So you say you work a lot with people who are already in the industry, the professors at Offsite. What is one thing that is lacking from graduates from the ID programs here? One skill.
Something that's lacking from the ID students in general?
Yeah, like that you see that the industry needs.
That's a good question. I think something that lacks, that a lot of students are just not prepared. I think some students just struggle to articulate design. They don't, when they have an idea, again, design is about communicating your idea to others, and some students struggle to justify why they did this, or decision making, or anything like that. So whatever you do, make sure that it's justified. It's not random, like, hey, this cup is blue because my favorite color is blue. That's just not gonna get you too far. Or this form is this way, I think students just I think they struggle to talk about design in the proper way. I think a lot of students also sometimes don't really understand how something is made. As you saw in some of my work when I was a student, it was just like form next to another form. And sometimes it is crystal clear that students didn't take the time to try to understand how something would be manufactured, right? I think that's important. You don't have to be an engineer, nothing, by no means, but you should at least be curious. How is this going to be put together, right? A simple Google search will give you so many answers. Or just talking to another designer who has made things, like your educators, your faculty here, right? That's where I think that's what a lot of things are lacking with. If you're not able to articulate or talk about how something is made internally, imagine talking to someone who's trying to hire you. They've already made a decision in the first 10 seconds. If they're just being courteous, if the conversation goes south, they'll just be like, good to meet you, thanks. We'll be in touch, right? But yeah.
I was wondering if building that weapon was a pivotal moment for you, if it was something that you had to experience to bring you to the point you are, to where you are today.
The question was building that weapon, if that was a pivotal moment. Yes. Yeah, I would have to say, so that co-invention firm is no longer in business, which is why I'm showing it now. I don't think I've ever shown that to anyone. Yeah, I think it is. I think they play a really big role in what I do now and how I like helping as many and serving others. That's a good question. I do think about that all the time. Even as I was building this presentation, I was thinking about it, like, how has this shifted, my perspective on this stuff. I truly believe I wouldn't be in education if I didn't think otherwise. Those are just two opposite, right? I do have two younger brothers. My two youngest brothers are police officers, so I feel like when they went into the force, I feel like it brought up, very unwarranted emotions for sure. But yeah, it's something I reflect on quite often. But it did lead me to finding purpose. It led me to being very confident in what I wanted to do and who I wanted to help. So yeah, I think the short answer is yes, absolutely.
A percentage of graduates are not going to land design jobs right out of school, especially at this time. What do you say is like the best way to stay relevant during this time of unemployment or not the perfect job?
Yeah, have patience. Like be patient and talk to your parents about patience, because they won't understand. They'll be like, why don't you have a job? But yeah, you're absolutely right. All of you who graduate here might not have an industrial design job in June, July, August. Be patient and just continue working. I would say now that you've completed school, start doing your own passion projects. start doing work that you wanted to do, or go back and look at some of your classwork and be like, how can I elevate this? How can I make it better? But just continue to work, continue going to events. There's a lot of virtual events, go to in-person events. Just keep your head above water. Whatever you do, don't stop. If you really want to be in design, just don't stop. Because as soon as you stop, you're like, oh, yeah, I'll take a break, a week, 2 weeks, a month. 5 years later, you might not be in design. But be very patient and be very kind to yourself, because if you really want to do this, you'll find ways, no matter what.
So this is a two-part question. Where do you see design 5, 10 years from now? And where do you see design education 5 or 10 years from now?
Oh boy. Where do I see design, and where do I see design education 5, 10 years from now? Sometimes it's hard to answer that question with kind of the political climate that we have now and a lot of uncertainty. But I think that what we do in design education and even in design, we will prevail. We will always be here. I don't think that's ever going away. Doesn't matter if people are banning tools, books, whatever. I think education will always be present in the moment. Design, where do I see it in 5 to 10 years? I mean, I think there's going to be so many tools. I mean, you can see in the last 2 years, AI itself has evolved. Technology moves extremely fast, right? I think an industrial designer who will be very valuable to someone is an industrial designer who is multifaceted, someone who might be very curious in other disciplines, who not only supplements industrial design, or not only has industrial design, but is supplementing it with other disciplines like, technology. It could be engineering. It could be anything. Just interdisciplinary is where I see it. A lot of companies are hiring designers that are starting to build that unicorn kind of identity, because they can do more than. It's funny because industrial designers already do a lot, but yeah, I think a lot of companies are hiring young designers who are not afraid to take risks. They're not hiring you for what you can do in 2 months. They're hiring you for what you might be able to do in 5 years, and making sure that you're constantly learning and being ahead of what's happening in the tools they're are being released. But also making sure you're not forgetting about the foundation of design. Yeah, tools are just tools. They will come and go. I don't know if AI will be around. Most likely, I don't think that's going anywhere. But it's just a tool, right? If you can't design, AI is not going to help you, right? So make sure that you have those fundamentals down. Make sure that you can really understand language, architecture, archetypes, form, things like that. But I think the future of industrial design is going to be someone who's bilingual. And I'm not talking about Spanish, English, Japanese. I'm talking about bilingual in talent, bilingual in understanding languages in design. And the future of design education, 5 to 10 years. Right now I'm at 2 to 3 years, Alex. 5 to 10 years is pretty far out there. But I'm hoping that in 5 to 10 years, design education is, really at the forefront of what's happening in the industry. There should be no reason why agencies aren't coming directly to schools to, the schools have a pool of talent, at least on paper that's what it should be, right? And that's not the case. A lot of agencies are moving away from going to one specific school to do all their hiring, because sometimes the students are not meeting their expectations, right? So I'm hoping that I'm hoping that in design education, faculty are all, working designers who can really inform students on how to best prepare. One of the most dangerous phrases is, this is the way we do it because it's always been this way, right? And so I'm hoping that in 5 to 10 years, design education is evolved where it's caught up. And that's what I'm talking about, that gap. Feel like industry's always changing, industry's constantly evolving, and education's still trying to understand what is happening in AI. Not all schools. I would say that there's maybe 2% of schools that are really on top of what's happening. But in the United States, there's probably like 80, maybe 60 to 80 industrial design programs. And I would say that, again, 2% of those schools are really good, and the rest are really just still trying to understand, what is AI, what's happening? AI thing happened in 2020, And so it's like, there's such a disconnect. So I'm hoping that in 5 to 10 years, everyone is at least on the same wavelength. So.
There's another question. Let's go with the mask here.
How do you reckon with the negative impacts of AI, both on the world of design and on the natural environment? And what do you think about the future of the design world and how that plays a part in our larger, physical world?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because when we were building Offsite, which is our online design school, there were so many people that reached out to us and said, hey, are you going to integrate AI? Can we teach AI and this and that? And we decided to take it kind of slow, because we wanted to make sure that we were making sure we were investing all of our resources in making sure that students can think, and students can actually understand design. Again, AI is a wonderful tool. It is a tool that also uses tons and tons of resources, unfortunately. But I think that as we go on, I think these resources, we'll find solutions to not use so many of, like water, I know it uses tons of cooling systems and things like that, and really impacts the environment. I'm just optimistic. I know there's a lot of negativity around AI and things like that. I use it in my own work, but I don't use it to find solutions. I use it more for finding iterations of something I already created. It allows me to be more efficient, allows me to be faster. But I think as AI is going to be here for quite some time, I think designers are going to be needed more than ever. Because yes, AI is, anyone could use it, the public can use it, my mom could use it, but if she does, let's say she designs a chair in AI, she won't know the difference between if the chair has the right measurements, the right dimensions, the right proportions. You need a very specific eye to go in and really then take it to production, right? So even though these tools exist, designers are gonna really be needed to really make something real. These tools are there for anyone. Anyone could use them, but there's a difference between reality and something that's fictional, and AI can be very fictional.
What is your take on undergraduate students going straight into a graduate program in industrial design?
I would say, what's your purpose? Like, you just love school so much, you're like going straight into grad school, or are you trying to avoid the market, the job market? Are you trying to just take a pause because the economy is bad? It just really, I think I need a little more context. I had a friend who did that when I went to grad school. He was my graduate buddy, and he had just graduated 4 months from undergrad, and I was like, wow, you're a baby. But He held his own. He proved that I was highly impressed. He went on to do some amazing stuff. I think it just depends on what you're doing, why you're doing that, you know, what are you chasing, what's the purpose. Whatever it is, just make sure it's the best decision for you, right? I have a master's degree in industrial design. I went to graduate school because I really wanted to go into academia, and you need a master's degree. And so I was like, I just need this piece of paper. That was like back then. I was like, I just need this paper. I really want to teach. In retrospect, I think about it now. I'm like, I probably should have gone like an MBA or something. Something that I could have used, you know, to really like supplement my undergraduate education. It is what it is, but it's a pretty tough decision, but think about it. Think about why you're doing that and what's the best decision for you. Sorry, I don't have like a straight answer, but yeah.
I think we have time for one more question. Tony?
Thank you. I was wondering if you can share a little bit from your perspective as, after so many years in design education, both in like the education institutes that are out there, but also as someone who's independently programming education to kind of fill in the gaps. Specifically, if you can address diversity within design education and then in relations to diversity within the marketplace.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think as someone who started programming on their own with the help of other people and started to really felt like David and Goliath, even though it was never that. Like I never see academia as a threat. I actually motivates me to working at these institutions, and there's systems in place that you can't control, and you know, you just have to find other ways, you know. So as someone who started a small, very small, tiny spec, when you think of design education, Offsite, I just see it as, let's just take this one day at a time. I don't have all the answers. I only have X amount of experience. The instructors that are teaching at Offsite will look at me for answers because I'm in education and they're not. And so I always felt like I had that pressure, like I don't have the answers. I don't have all the answers. We're doing this together. But we lean on our own experience as undergraduate students. We were like, well, what didn't I like about my undergraduate experience? What was missing? And a lot of these industrial designers are also in positions of hiring young designers. So what are they looking for? And what can we teach that in the curriculum? How can we integrate that? One of the classes that we teach is called Design Discourse. And in that course, we talk about the philosophy of design. And it gets kind of uncomfortable because we have students from all over the world, and they all come from different walks of life, have different backgrounds, excuse me, come from different cultures, different diversities, and yeah, design is not the same all over the world. There's design is just different, and so in that class we teach students how to not only talk about design, but also how to think about different perspectives, think about different lens, looking at problems from a different lens. I think here in the United States, we're pretty privileged that we can speak quite freely about things. That's not the case, you know, in other parts of the world. We've had, I've sat in that class, I don't teach that class, but I've sat in that class where I see a lot of just guys talking, and they're just talking over each other, right? And so just observing that experience was like, we need to do something about this, and how can we give the platform, how can we make a platform or maybe create a private channel where then the women students perhaps voice their concerns or opinions. And it turns out that after we talk to them one-on-one, it's just part of their culture, where they just have to, you know, let their counterpart do most of the talking, and they just have to listen. And that's, for me, that's very hard to understand that concept because I'm not wired that way. So then we created our solutions so that they can feel comfortable and come forward and speak their mind without feeling judged or without feeling like, you know. So yeah, diversity is very interesting because I've worked at institutions where there's a lot of diversity, and a lot of the students, I'm like, oh, I was you, and like, I feel right at home. And I've also worked at other institutions where the student body is coming from affluent, you know, upbringings, which is perfectly fine, but they miss so much in solving a problem because they just never lived it, or they've never had the time to sit down and observe it. And so trying to explain to someone that lens is kind of funny. It's like teaching a 2-year-old trying to walk for the first time, right? But yeah, I think diversity is the answer to so many solutions, because we don't know everything, and there's people from all walks of life that have solutions in the most clever ways. Yeah, and I feel like if I knew everything, then I wouldn't have all these people working with me, and I don't, which is why we employ like 12 people, and they all do magical things that I have no idea how they do it, but it just makes the program work. So.
Well, I think that's where we have to wrap up, but I want to thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us tonight, Hector. Clearly, you're a person on a mission, and we appreciate the line that you walk between industry and education, because as professionally oriented programming, it's something we're quite familiar with and interested in continuing to forward along with you. So thank you for your partnership and your friendship.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all for coming tonight. Look out for our next Design Conversations lecture in a couple weeks with Rarify, who I think you'll all find very, very interesting. So be safe. See you soon.